Hello and welcome back to another video in the complete web development series. I know I'm a little slow at releasing these videos, but I'm extremely busy and I want to keep doing this, but I just got to do it when I can, guys. So you know how it is. All right, so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take our to-dos now and get all the previous ones from the back end, and then we're going to print them out in a table, and then we'll be able to update when we add one with the form. It'll just go in there. So what we're going to do now is show all of our to-dos, and then we'll see how far we get. So let's jump right in. I'm not going to waste a bunch of your time. So here we go. What I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and fire up, just so I don't forget, the database. So for me, we had XAMPP up and running already, if you've been following along with this series. And so now really all we needed here though is the MySQL server. We're not going to be using this Apache or anything like that. The next thing we want to do is I got this stored in the htdocs directory here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and go into that. So cd into to do here, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open two new tabs. In this last tab, what I'm going to do is back out and go to my API, and let's just go ahead and spin up that Node server. So I'll run npm start on that, and then back on the React server, let's go ahead and do npm start there, and that'll start us a port on port 3000, and it'll go ahead and load that up. So you can see where we left off in the last video. The next thing that we want to do here is let's create a new branch for us to work on. So we are on video 11, get checkout -b v11, and then I'm going to do a get push u origin v11 to add that to the upstream remote. Now we're good to go. We have everything up and running, so now we can just start on the code. The first thing that we want to do is let's go ahead and get our previous to-dos from our database. We have a bunch in there from testing and whatnot, but let's go ahead and get those. And what I'm going to do is in the app index, once they load here, it's going to do this auth check, and then we're going to do hydrate. So what we want to do is right now they're saying, hey, if they're not logged in, then we're going to do a history.push, and we're going to push them to the login screen. But I'm going to add an else here. If they are logged in, then we're going to go ahead and run the hydrate function, which we haven't created yet. And what we're going to do with this hydrate function is it's going to get the to-dos and the contacts from this API server and load those into our store. So let's go ahead and create that function. So this is going to be an async function called hydrate. Well, yeah, we'll do an async function, and we'll call that hydrate. And inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to get the response. Okay, so we have a response coming back. We can use our await, and what we're going to do is use JSON get, because the API has a get request, and that is located just in the root of to-dos. So we're just going to pass a JSON request to to-dos, and that'll be our response. Let's go ahead and just console log that response really quick and see what happens there. Let's refresh here. So hydrate is not defined, and why wouldn't that be defined? Did I spell this wrong? Oh, I have an extra R right here. All right, so we go back now to the console log. We get a success true back, and this, if we look at the network request, we're making a request to to-dos, so it's localhost 5000 to-dos, and the response back from that is all of our to-dos. So we have 14 of them here, and it also gave us a success true here. So what we want to do is take these to-dos and put them into our store. So that's going to be pretty easy to do. The one thing that we're going to want to do here is we're going to use our to-do dispatch. So we haven't set that up yet. So we want to go ahead and get that from our context. So we have this to-do context right here that we started in the last video. So let's go ahead and bring that in. So we're going to say const to-do store and to-do dispatch, and we're going to get that from use context hook, and we're going to pass in our to-do context. So I need to import that here, to-do context, and then we will just plug that in here, to-do context, and there we go. So now we have a to-do dispatch and a to-do store. So what we want to do is, if this response in this hydrate is successful, then we want to go ahead and use the reducer function to add it to the store. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if response.success, and we're going to do to-do dispatch, and we're going to, for the well, actually here we're going to pass a object, and the first thing is going to be our type, and this type is going to be, we're going to call it set to-dos. Then what we're going to do is pass a payload, and we're going to set that payload, we're going to add our to-dos, and that'll be response.data, and then total, and that will be response.total. So now our payload is going to have payload.todos and total. So if you look in here in our data that comes back, we have this data, and then we have our total right here. So we're going to pass that into that dispatcher so that we can use that. Okay, so that's all we're going to do right now in this hydrate method. Let's go and do this part of it, the set to-dos and the to-do context. So right now we have this reducer function that we started, and we want to add that case for that, what we just added. We added the, so if the action type that gets sent in is equal to, what do we call that? Set to-dos, like that, then what we're going to do is we're going to set up this store. So we'll return our store, and then we want to set our to-dos equal to our action.payload.todos. And then we're also going to set our total. So then we're going to say total is set to action.payload.total. And those are set because here we are, when we're sending this, we have this payload to-dos and payload total, okay? And so that will actually set up our to-dos from our database into our store in this context here that can be provided down to other components. So let's go ahead now and let's do a couple things. First and foremost, let's go ahead and just set up our to-do list component. So inside of your to-dos, we have this to-do list component that we stubbed out earlier. Let's go ahead and make that work. So we're going to need some imports here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a few lines here, and let's go ahead and import React and use context here, because we need to use some context. That'll come from React. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to import our to-do context, and that's going to come from, let's see, our context and to-do context. The next thing that we're going to need to import here is, let's go ahead and get our string to Boolean function that we created, and we'll just get that from our helpers and our string helpers. Let's go ahead and also just kind of set this up. Let's import our use alert, and that's coming from React alert library that we installed. And then we're going to have a couple of Ajax calls here. So we're going to use JSON patch and JSON delete. And we're going to get that from our helpers Ajax file. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is in this to-do list up here above our return, let's go ahead and set up our to-do store and our to-do dispatch, and that's going to equal use context, and then we're going to pass in the to-do context, and so we'll have that available to us. The other thing we'll set up here is our alert. So alert is just going to equal use alert, just like that. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want to create our to-do list. So when we down here in this return, we have this div already. So let's give that div a class name. And we already set I believe we already set this up, but we're going to have poster and flex grow 4 as our wrapper here. So we'll get rid of this text here. And then we're just going to do a UL, and we'll give this a class name equal to to-do-list. All right, and then in here, we're going to pass in to-do list like that. So that'll be a constant. So let's set that up really quick. We don't have that. So above this return here, create a constant called to-do list. And we're going to set that equal to our to-do store dot to-dos dot map. And inside there, we're going to pass in a to-do, and we'll have an index. And then what we're going to do is inside this map, we're going to return, we'll do a multi-line return here, so we need the parentheses, and we're going to return an li. Thanks VS Code for being completely useless. And so in this li, what we need to do is we need to give, since this is going to be in a loop, each one of these elements, we need to tell React which React needs to be able to tell which of these are apart from each other, so that when it updates the DOM and stuff like that. So what it requires is a key. And so we're just going to, in this key, since we're doing this map, we already have this index, and those are going to be auto incremented each time. And so this key only has to be unique within this loop. So we can just use that integer from index here if we want. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we're going to get an input that's going to have a type equal checkbox. The value is going to be equal to the to-do.id, and then checked is going to be equal to our string to boolean, and then we're going to pass in to-do completed value. So we have this to-do on each iteration of this loop, and that has an ID and a completed in it. The next thing that we're going to have here is an on change, and for now we're just going to stub that out. We're going to we'll call it handle update completed, something like that. Oops, that's not at all what I wanted to do. And then I'll just give it a closing tag here. It's complaining right now because we don't have this handle update completed. So we could add that really quick. Let's add an async function, and we'll call that handle update completed, like this. And this is going to take an event. So when this on change triggers, it'll have an event with it, so we can just use it like that. And then in here, for now, we're not going to do this right now, so I'm going to just do a console log here, and we'll just console log that event just for fun. So it's doing something. The next thing that we want to be able to do though is we want to put in the text of the to-do, and so we're just going to put curly brackets here, and we'll use to-do dot name. Okay, so that's the property of the to-do there. The next thing that we want to be able to do is we're going to add a way for us to delete these. So let's add a span here. We'll give it a class name equal to trash button, and on the on click of this, we're going to trigger a function called handle delete to do, which we'll have to stub that out in a moment. This is also going to have a data ID, and we'll set that equal to to-do.id. The role of this is going to be a button. Area label for screen readers is going to just equal trash can. All right, so there's the span here, and what we could do is we could just put in the let's see, let's find, we'll Google this. I can't remember what it's called. It's called HTML code for trash can emoji. Okay, there's wastebasket. We can use that one. Or wait. Yeah, we'll use these emojis here. So we can pick any of these. So let's just go ahead and copy this. And then what we can do is come in here and paste it. And the editor is actually just showing it, but what it's actually copying is, I think, this right here. So if we copy that and we paste it in here like this, we'll delete that. Maybe not. What is it actually? All right, let's see. Is it? All right, sorry about that. So I'm gonna go, and one thing I'm just curious about, I'm gonna paste this thing as plain text. So let's see, text editor. Anyways, it's using an emoji code, and we could just use that without installing anything. So we'll just use that for now. You guys could use like an icon from like Font Awesome if you want, or something like that. But I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in like that. Let's just kind of see. Well, I got a problem here. We need to create that function too. So let's just stub that out. We'll do an async function. It's gonna be called handle delete to do. That'll have an event, and for now let's just console log that event like that, and we'll close this. And now if I refresh, we have a box here. We should have some to-dos. Oh, we're not. Let's see, what did we do wrong? To-dos. To-do store dot to-dos. One thing I'm gonna do in here is I'm just gonna console log the to-do and the index and just see if this is triggering. Okay, I think we have an issue maybe in the to-do context here. let's set to-dos, hydrate. Let's do a console log, and here let's just console log to-do store. So our hydrate's not getting anything back from the back end, or it's not working. So we got a problem somewhere here. And what's really strange is I do believe that it's making the network request to to-dos and it's getting that data back. So we have another issue. So let's see, this to-do dispatch, the type is set to-dos. I'm gonna copy that and make sure we don't have a typo here. Set to-dos, and then we're gonna return store. To-dos is the action. Well, I guess one thing we could do here is console log our payload. Let's see what's going on there. Action.payload. All right, something's definitely happening here with our switch. This isn't triggering this at all when that comes back. Oh, there it is. So this, I had a typo right here of a success, so it wasn't actually running the dispatcher. So that's working. Let's go ahead and remove this console log here. Now you can see all of these. We don't have the styling, I guess, done on this, so let's go ahead and try to make that look a little nicer. Let's go to public styles app.css, and I'm going to look through and see if there's anything that we're missing for our to-dos. There are form styles, buttons. Yeah, we didn't style up our to-dos yet, so let's go ahead and add that. So I'm going to do comment to-dos. And then the to-do list, we want to have padding left 0 pixels. And then we'll do our list style type. We'll set that to none, so that'll get rid of our bullet points here. So there's no bullet points. The next thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and give it a little breathing room by doing to-do list, and then we're going to target the list item itself, and we're going to do some margin bottom on this of 12 pixels. And what that'll do is just, it spreads these out a little bit. The next thing that we'll do is we'll target our input. So to-do list input with a type of checkbox. We'll do margin right 12 pixels there. So that gives that checkbox a little bit of breathing room. The next thing that we'll do is let's do the dot trash button icon, and we'll do a display of inline block so that we can apply some margin to this, and then we'll just give it margin left of 12 pixels. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is let's do a trash button hover, and we'll just set that cursor to a pointer. All right, so now we have all of these to-dos here. Let me go ahead and clear this. If we click one of these, it should show us that event, and it does. And if we check one of these boxes, we also get an event. So you can see an on click or an on change happening. Whether we click the input is an on change. If we click this, we have an on click, so that we can trigger deleting and completing these as we go. Okay, so now we have that. Let's go ahead and we can close that app.css for now. That's good enough. And what I'd like to be able to do now is, let's see, how much time are we at? 26 minutes. We'll keep going for a little while. There's more stuff to do here. Let's go ahead and do our completing and our deleting. Let's see if we can knock those out. So what we want to do is go to your to-do list. So to-do list here. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this console log. Let's work on the update one first. So we have the handle update complete. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a response equal to, and we're going to do an await here. Since this is an async function, we can do that. And we're going to do a JSON patch. That's what our API is going to require. And what we're going to do, we're going to send, I'm going to use backticks there so we can do string interpolation, but we're going to send this to event.target.value. And then what we're going to post to that, or patch the data, is we're going to send our completed, and completed is going to be equal to event.target.checked. So that will be true or false if this checkbox is checked or not. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, if the response.success, let me see if I can spell that right this time so we don't have the same issue as earlier. Then we want to do an alert.show, and let's see. Let's do a dynamic message here. So what we'll do, we're going to say const message, and that's going to be equal to a string to boolean. And what we're going to do is if response.todo, because it's going to send that to-do back, is completed, then I want to tell them that the to-do has been completed. Else, we're going to tell them that the to-do is marked as incomplete. Okay, so in the alert.show, we'll just put the message there, and then we'll give this a timeout of 4,000 milliseconds, which is 4 seconds. Okay, so then what we want to be able to do is we're going to dispatch this to-do to update it. Okay, so we'll do an to-do dispatch, and for this we're going to tell it that the type is equal to the to-do updated, and then the payload will send that, and that's going to be response.todo. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to return this response here. Since this is an asynchronous function, we want to return something there. All right, so now we have this, and we need to go to back to the to-do context and add another section here. And so we'll just add another one here called to-do updated. And this one's going to be a little more involved, because what we want to do is we're going to get the to-do back from the API response, and we want to find that in our current store, and then we want to replace it. So we're going to use something called a splice. But first we need to find the index. So we're going to say index is equal to store.todos.find index. So that's going to loop through there, and then it's going to give us an index or a to-do for each time it loops through. And what we want to do here is we're going to say, hey, if todo.id, and we'll just change it to a string to make sure that it's going to match the database. If that's equal to the action.payload.id.toString, it'll return that. And so now we'll have the index of where this original to-do item lives in the store. So then once we have that, what we can do is we can do something like to-dos is equal to store.todos. And then we can do todos.splice. And this splice takes three things. First of all, it's going to take the index. So we're going to, that index that we found, that's the position that we're going to splice this. And then it takes a number that we're going to delete. So we're going to delete 1. And then we're going to, the third is what we're going to replace it with. And we're going to replace that with our action.payload. Okay? So that'll add that. And then what we need to do is return that store. So what we're going to do here is destructure the store. Destructure the store, and we'll do to-dos, and we'll pass in that to-dos right here that we just recreated with that splice. Let me make sure that's correct. Oh, the other thing that we want to do here is, remember how we are recounting. We have this use effect, and if this dirty state updates, it recounts these incomplete. So we want to go ahead and do that too. So all we need to do is we just need to set dirty to false here, or to true rather. And when we do that, this use effect is going to trigger, and it's actually going to update the incomplete amount. Okay, so let's go and try that. If I click mark, make this work. Okay, we got a problem here. Did it trigger? Okay, so the error is not found. So something's wrong with our path. So let's go back to our to-do list. We're sending it to do. You know what? I think it's a to-dos with an S. And then we're sending, okay, let's try that. I think I had that path wrong there. There we go. So now it says that the to-do is completed, and you can see it does stay checked now. And if I click on any of these, it'll complete those. It's triggering the alert here for 4 seconds. And if you refresh, you can see that those are in fact completed in the database. Okay. So that is all good. We do have a count here. One thing that we might want to do as well, let me go to the main navigation. So if you go to the main navigation, this is something we can do that's pretty cool too. So main nav, what I want to do is I want to put my number of incomplete to-dos right here in the navigation. So I'm going to add a parenthesis here, and we are going to go ahead and bring in the context for our to-do. So we'll say to-do context. We'll import that from context, to-do context. And then what we can do is set that up here. So we'll say const to-do, and we don't need the dispatcher here, so we're just going to bring in the store. All right, so now that we have that store here, we can actually just inside of here put some curly brackets, and we'll say to do store dot incomplete. So that'll be a number, and so now we have this. Why is that 0? Let's see. We might not have finished this. Let's see. Update incomplete. What if I set this dirty to true to start with? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Store.todos. Let's console log string to boolean to do dot completed. Okay. Maybe what we'll do is on this set to dos, let's try this where we set dirty to true on that as well. Yeah, that's what it was. So now what was happening is this use effect actually wasn't updating because store.dirty was always false. And so after it update the to-dos, it wasn't running this. So that was the problem there. So now we can actually see the number. And if I update any of these, it automatically lowers that because of that use effect. And as I click on these, it'll tell you how many to-dos we have that are incomplete. So if we're not on this page, say we're on another page, which we don't have that, this menu item will tell us how many we have. Let's go ahead and get rid of that console log there. Sorry about that. All right, so that's cool. That's working as expected. And that's really what's cool about React, guys. I think this illustrates it really well. As I'm updating this here, we're getting real-time or near real-time updates in other parts of the application that needs it through that context. And I don't have to write like a JavaScript or a jQuery thing to find this and change this number, like set inner HTML or anything like that. It just always looks at that store value, and as we update that store value, this just updates. And I think that's super cool. Honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons I like React. All right, so since we'll go ahead and finish up the delete stuff as well, because I'll give you a little bit longer of videos since I haven't been around as often. So let's go back to the to-do list. And inside the to-do list, we're now going to work on this handle delete to-do. All right, and so inside of here, what we want to do, let's just do a simple window confirm. So we'll do window.confirm, and we'll pass in some text. We'll say, are you sure you want to delete this to-do? This cannot be undone, period. If they say yes, it'll go into this if statement now. And what we want to do here is we're going to say the const ID is going to be equal to our event.target. Oops, I spelled event wrong. Event.target.dataset.id. And then we'll do a response is going to be equal to, and we'll do an await JSON delete. And here we're going to do a backtick, so we can do string interpolation again. And we're going to send this to todos / and then we're going to pass in that ID right there. And the backend will then go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to say, hey, if the response is successful, then go ahead and do an alert.show to do deleted, and then we'll set a timeout on that as well. And let's just do 3 seconds on that. I think 4 seconds is a little long for some of those, so I'm gonna change that. Then what we're gonna do is do a dispatch to our reducer. And guys, the reason that we do the dispatch instead of just update it directly here is now it's because of that dispatch and keeping that that store values in the context that things know to re-render and stuff like that. So we want to go ahead and keep that logic there. And we're going to pass this message as to do deleted, and then we're going to do a payload, and we're just going to send that ID back as the payload. Okay, that's all we need to do here. So let's go ahead now back to our to-do context, and let's finish that up. So this is going to be a little bit similar to what we just did with the updated, except for we're not going to replace it. We're just going to cut it out of there. So this one was to do deleted, and then we're still going to find that index. So we'll do store.todos.find index, and we're looking through the to-do, and we're going to return the to-do.id.toString. We're going to say, is that equal to our action.payload.toString? And then once we have that, we're going to do todos is equal to store.todos. All right, and then we're going to do todos.splice. And here we're just going to tell it the index, and we're going to tell it to delete one of them, but we're not going to give it a third parameter to place a new one in there. Then we're just going to return our store, and we're going to set incomplete. Actually, we'll just recount it. So we're just going to set todos equal to our todos string, our object there, and we'll set dirty to true so that it recounts with that use effect. All right, so now if I delete these, it should give us a pop-up. Are you sure you want to delete? If I hit cancel, it doesn't do anything. But if I hit OK, well, we got an error, dispatch event. Okay, let's find out why. Go back here. Oh my gosh. I don't know why this got changed to dispatch event. This is our to-do dispatch function. There we go, to-do deleted. And you can see this number will actually, if I delete an incomplete one, that number is going down. So I'm going to get rid of all these testing ones here. Notice the number is not going down when we delete one that's already complete, and that's because that number is only our incomplete ones. So let's go now, and we'll add a new one here. So new test to do. Awesome, it works. And then we need to create a way to store contacts, and CRUD operations on contacts. Awesome. So we can go through and delete these now. And we have some to-dos left over that we can do in the next video. So this to-do system right here is working. If we log out and we log back in as a different user, so we'll say Tony's to-do 1, Tony's to-do 2. So Tony gets her own set of to-dos. Just wanted to double check that and make sure we didn't have any thing on the back end that might have been passing. There we go. So Tony's isn't showing up in my list and mine isn't showing up in hers. So I'm just double checking that, making sure that's good. And so yeah, I think we're done with the to-do section. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll start the contacts portion of this, and it's basically going to have a couple screens where you can add a contact. We'll be able to update the contact, delete the contact, and we'll have a list of contacts that show up. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.